Hey, it's Travis Lane Jenkins. Welcome to episode number 95 of the Entrepreneurs Radio Show, a production of RockstarEntrepreneurNetwork.com. Today I'm going to introduce you to Jim DeBetta. Just in case you're new to the show, each and every episode is about connecting you with rockstar entrepreneurs so that you can hear their journey to success. And also you can learn what they've found to be the secrets to success. I believe this is critical to fast forwarding you in your endeavors as an entrepreneur as well. Now, before we start, I want to give you a little bit of a background on Jim. Jim is a rock star for several reasons. First of all, he's built his own company to or beyond the $20 million mark, which is a rare feat in itself. After that, he went on to help thousands of investors and startups, new businesses, learn how to scale their business. Jim also heads the retail distribution arm for Kevin Harrington from the ABC reality hit show Shark Tank. And there's a lot more about Jim, although we only have an hour, so I'm going to spare you. Just know that Jim is brilliant on many, many levels. In this interview, Jim will share his top 5 tips for growing your business along with lots more. So be sure and stay with us. This is going to be a great interview. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Hey, thank you for having me here.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I mispronounced show, but listen, I'm super excited to have you here, and you've got a really interesting angle, some things that you do, maybe not an angle, but the things that you do, and I'm really fascinated in how you got there. And so do you mind sharing that backstory of what brought you to where you are today and how you become this rock star?
Yeah, well, rock star is a strong word, but okay, I'll work with that for today. It sounds nice. Well, I kind of grew up in retail. My family owned a small chain of stores, retail stores on Long Island in New York. And when you grow up in that business, you get to see, obviously, the buying side, the consumer side. So you walk into a store and you see product for sale and you understand how people buy it. And then you're on the other side, which is how to choose products, how to merchandise them, and then, of course, how to sell them to people like you and I. So grew up around that business as a kid and through college. And then when I got out of school, I got involved in a startup which manufactured sport optics, which are binoculars and telescopes and night vision, fun stuff. And we really didn't know what we were doing, but we knew we were smart enough to get a business going. But we made the proverbial mistakes and spent a lot of money the wrong way. But at the end of the day, in under 10 years, we built a near $20 million a year business selling our products to the likes of Target and Walmart and Dick's Sporting Goods and so many major retailers. And, we did it old school. We had to go and see people because the internet really wasn't much of anything in the mid-90s. And, we got faxes on therm paper fax machines. And today I don't even use a fax anymore. And it's really changed. But back then you really had to really dig harder than you do today, I think.
Right.
And from that success, I really got well connected into the world of retail and the buying side. And I parlayed that into a number of other entrepreneurial opportunities. I started my own company. I spent a couple of years working with Kevin Harrington, who was one of the sharks on Shark Tank for the first season and a half, and I was selling some of his products that he funded and into the major retail chains, and working on the infomercial side of the business. And I mean, I've always been in this business. I've always been in the product business, and I'm leaving things out. But the highlight of it is that I've just always been fascinated by product. There's always something new every day in my world. You never know who's going to have the next Snuggie or the next cool thing. And so along the way, I'm helping people develop those products and getting them in front of retailers and having a lot of fun with it.
Right. So let me make sure I have one thing right. In the very beginning, your first job was with your folks, and what were y'all doing?
I didn't hear the last part. I'm sorry.
What were y'all doing? What type of work?
Yeah, these were kind of combination stores. You may have these around where you are. in the winter, the stores sold fireplaces and gas stoves and gas fireplaces, things of that nature, winter things, winter home things. And in the summer, the stores sold outdoor furniture, like very high-end cast aluminum furniture, like these sets you see for like $2,000 to $3,000, for your patio. And then year-round, they had hardware, but all high-end hardware, like doorknob sets and hinges and things for your house, but expensive stuff. So it was kind of a cool business because you're doing different things seasonally. And my family was very, very successful in this business. Even when the Home Depots of the world came along, they even did better because they rode their advertising coattails, so to speak. They took advantage of what Home Depot didn't offer as far as services and products. But Home Depot made businesses like my family's business more aware to consumers. So it was really a great experience. And my dad still has one store left today, and he's in his 80s. So he's still going at it.
Wow. Well, you know what's interesting is, so now I get it. Okay, so you worked in that face-to-face environment, and I think that's key. Being able to dial things in when you're doing some face-to-face sales, you can really take things through a cycle, or at least that's what I found, because that's some of how I started out also, as I did some face-to-face sales. It's a very fast process. You can tell on people's faces whether they're liking what you're saying, what the problems are. If you're an outgoing person, you can even ask them why they don't buy. You can dig very deep. And so even in just kind of this brief outline, going from that environment with your folks to the manufacturing, doing that stuff, even with Kevin Harrington, what I hear you doing is you were building out a marketing funnel almost with Kevin Harrington. Would that be a fair assessment?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was a bunch of things, but look, everybody knows what an infomercial is. You see all these products being sold on TV. Right. Get it now, $19.99, and we'll get a second one for free. And that's a huge business in this country. And it seems like everybody that has a product that's inexpensive wants to use that vehicle to sell their products. And so, but when you do that, when people call or go online to order or to inquire, you're building a list, right? Mm-hmm. So, and obviously you're on TV, so millions of people potentially can see your product and then log on or call to buy it. So, while you're selling, you're also building a marketing platform, but then you've got to market well in order to sell well. So people kind of break the two apart sometimes, and a lot of corporations segregate sales and marketing inappropriately. And I don't know how one could work without the other, because it's kind of like, it's a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You got to have both. And if you have that and you're in sync, whether it's the infomercial world or it's the regular selling products to retail world, you'll be in good shape. But neither one of those can be left out of the equation. Right.
So I come from the same era as you. I started with the faxes and, all of that other stuff. And so something that I've seen transition in my business is, for years, marketing was a way to get the opportunity to try and sell them something. And now it's much more of an integrative thing, to where marketing can handle a large majority of the sales process as well, to where the people have really been conditioned to know, like, and trust you. And you can do all of this stuff ethically. So do you agree with that? That's my perspective. Do you agree with that?
I do. And I think that, there are marketers, you and I both know this, that aren't so ethical, if you will, or they just continue to bombard you when you don't want to be bombarded, or the messages send you to a different place than what you expect. But today, even in the retail selling world, it continues to grow out on the internet side and the email side and the texting side. I mean, I have my cell phone on. I'm getting text messages from various retailers with special offers, and as long as they're legit and they're cool and there's something that I want, there's no better way to market, because everybody is on their phone. I don't care if you're 5 years old or you're 95. It seems to be that's where everybody is. So I do agree with you that method and methodology is important today.
Well, so one of the things, number one, it's common for people to not feel like they're a rock star. I don't think the average person walks around, even that has had the level of success that you've had, and said, hey, I'm a rock star, right? You just don't think of yourself that way. But the important thing is the percentage of people that make it to $20 million in revenue is just incredibly small. It's probably 1,000th of a percent of business owners that ever reach that level.
It's a tiny number.
Yeah, it's a tiny number. Once you found that level of success, and you did that with the manufacturing business, did you sell that business?
I left the business, so I didn't purely sell it.
Right.
Business is still in existence today. At that point, I had been traveling, almost 100 days a year. I started having children with my wife, and I just felt like I didn't want to do that amount of work anymore. I built a business. It was successful. I did all those things that I wanted to do and more, and I just felt it was time to step aside and to take some time off and then look for other opportunities. Because even when I was doing that, I was thinking, what other businesses could I be in? And what else could I do? And that's just always the way I've been. So I felt like to have done it that long was a long time for me.
Right.
Yeah. So I moved on and went into a whole other world of all different types of things. And I'm sure I'll continue to do that. I'm always looking for opportunities and fun and interesting things to do. I want to make money like everybody else, but I also want to enjoy what I'm doing and pick and choose the opportunities.
And plus your standards, I'm going to assume that, me and you think probably very similar on this. What happens is your standards evolve and your interests evolve and who you are as a person evolves. And so once you conquer something, it's no longer a challenge and it's no longer exciting, or you're no longer willing to put those 80 hours in to manage this thing. It's time to move on to something that gets your juices going. And, I'm 48 and I'm making that transition to where I want to have a better work-life balance. I want to travel more and focus on it. I have other businesses that I don't work in, right? And I lost the passion for those businesses years ago. Now, I still care about us doing a good job, but I just can't be there on a regular basis to focus on those businesses because it's not where my passion is. And, that's along the lines of what I hear you saying as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, you build something. I think part of me, the great fun and challenge is in the building of it, the conceiving of it. And then once it matures, I feel like, I'm getting bored. It's becoming redundant or repetitive. And now I want to work on something new. And you're right. I years ago decided that I wanted to be home more, and I didn't want to, be like some of my friends or neighbors that they go into a job, for a big corporation, and they're working, they're driving an hour and a half each way to work, and they come home and they're miserable. They don't even like what they're doing, but it's a paycheck to them. And I get that because that's okay. There are a lot of good corporations out there. But I've never been like that. I've never been a desk jockey or a cubicle guy. I could be a great team player, but I got to be near the head of the team. I'm not a rank and file guy, and that's how I am, and I know that. So I look for the opportunities. Could be small. They could be anything. It doesn't matter as long as it's appealing. And you're right, that work-life balance is critical. I've got kids. I got 4 kids, and they're small, and I'm here for them. I know what they do every day. I see them all the time. We eat dinner together most of the time. I don't miss anything. And not many people can say that because a lot of people are locked into what they're doing and they have to keep doing it. And they don't know how else to go about making money, or they're afraid to take risks. I've never been afraid to take risks. And now I've taken a lot of risks. Luckily, they paid off because had they not, who knows where I'd be. But, you can't get anywhere greater unless you're willing to take a little bit of a leap.
Right. And, I did the same thing. Fortunately, I made the leap when I was young and naive and had no idea what laid ahead of me.
Both.
Plus, the bills weren't gigantic at the time, so we had a very low overhead. And so for me at 48, I took my daughter to school this morning. I'm meeting my son after we do this interview to go look at some stuff and ride some motorcycles together. And the only way you can do that is being your own boss, right?
Yeah, I think so.
For the most part.
But people also mistake being your own boss for it being easier. People tell me, like some of my neighbors, they'll see me, whatever in the afternoon. And they say, well, don't you work? Don't you do anything? I'm like, I probably do more by lunchtime than you guys do all day long because I don't drive that hour and a half to work. I don't then walk into the office and chit chat for people for a half hour about, this or that or what happened with this person or whatever. And then they get all these meetings and half the time the meetings don't even amount to anything for them. And so maybe they've done like an hour or two's worth of work by lunch. I've already worked 4 or 5 hours and, concentrated real good work. And then my old saying is I'm proactive in the morning and reactive in the afternoon. So I kind of get all my emails out in the morning. I make my phone calls. I do all that heavy lifting in the morning. And I'm also a morning person. And then in the afternoon, I let things come to me. So, hey, I email you in the morning, Travis. And then, hey, dude, I got this idea. And then at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you email me back. And now I'm reacting to you or you call me back or whatever. But as your own boss, we don't leave an office, right? We have our phones with us or iPads. I'm always checking. I'm always working. I mean, I'm not an on-call surgeon, right? But,
right.
A lot of people leave the office at 5 or 6 o'clock and they go home and that's that. Well, I mean, I'm answering emails sometimes at 7, 8, 9 at night, or I'm thinking about things. But yet, if I want to go ride motorcycles with my kids for a few hours, as long as I don't have something pressing that day, I can go do that and know that, hey, I'll just make up for it later on or in the morning. And I don't have anybody to put pressure on me that it wasn't done. My only pressure is myself to my clients that I have to do a job for. So you and I both are doing it right. But like you said, we took tons of risks when we were younger and they paid off. So we're able to do that. So it's been a lot of hard work. People think it's, it must have been simple or whatever. Man, I went crazy for years and years to get to this point. So, now I get to enjoy it more. I still work hard and put in a lot of good time, but it's not as wild as it used to be.
Yeah, it's common that I have a laptop in my lap 15 minutes after I wake up.
Yeah.
Now, I don't say that as drudgery. I don't mind. Yeah. I had my daughter's babysitter had come in and she had just come in after I woke up and I had my laptop in my lap and she's like, "You're already working?" As if it's a bad thing. Right. And I'm excited to see what's happened overnight.
Yeah, right. It's like that surprise emails in the morning. Yeah, you always look forward to that. But like you said, but your environment is different. Like, my friends that go to work, they sit in that cubicle. It's like, boring, whatever. At least when I get up, I'm having coffee in my den. My kids are around. So I'm like working, but I'm also relevant to where I want to be in my life. And that's not work, right? Like other people have to work. It's a very, very different thing. When I need quiet, I get it. A lot of times I can email. My kids could be jumping on me and I can email, But if I need to think or I need quiet, I can do that. So we set our own pace. But by nature, I'm a go-getter. I don't need to be inspired. I don't need people to, rah-rah me. I get up, I'm ready to go. I'm like that every day. I mean, I have my days like you and everybody else do. I'm like, what? I just don't really feel like doing a whole lot today. And I don't fight it because I know the next day I'll come back strong. But we have the privilege of being able to do that, right? I mean, we can say, we're going to take a break, or I'm going to go and just go for a jog, or I'm going to watch TV for a half hour. Whatever it is you want to do, you can do it because you control your own destiny and you write your own checks. You want to work more, you'll make more. If you don't want to work as hard, then you'll suffer the financial consequences. And so I think we've got it made, Travis. I do. I always encourage people to. I know it's not easy to leave a job in your 40s or your 30s, but a lot of people moonlight and they try different things. And I think it's a good thing to explore and talk to people like you and I that have been through it and understand the pitfalls and the good parts about it.
Right. Rather than waiting for the right time, because there's never going to be a right time. Even when I was 25, it was not the right time.
Of course not. It's have kids. People say, well, I'm not ready to have kids. I'm not ready. well, you're never going to be ready. Your life's going to change. So just have the kids and you'll go through it. Right. It's like you're going to wait until you're dead. I mean, you can't. You only have a life, and that's it. So you got to do things, and you're going to talk about them all the time. So obviously, that's not going to make them happen.
Yeah, well, the shift that I got early on, and I know you did too, is we get paid on productivity rather than paid on time. Most people get paid on their time, and so they've got 8 hours to put in today, as an example. So, they don't necessarily need to be effective with their time. There was a period where I needed to work 15 hours and try to get 25 hours worth of work done in that 15 hours. And it is just what it is. And there still are times when I need to put exorbitant amount of time or effort in to get something over a hill or a certain hump. But again, as you get older, I get older and wiser and grow and evolve. I'm just much more effective with my time, and that's what makes everybody believe that we have nothing but free time on our hands.
Well, plus the technology piece, there's technology has changed. Like you said before, and I said, we had to do things old school back then. Now you've got so much technology that enables you to save time and be more efficient with your hours. And the other thing too is, like you said, getting impatient, or I'm not as tolerant about certain things. You hear older people always saying, I just don't really care anymore. I'm 75, I don't care. But I'm also quicker to say no. When I was younger, like in my 20s, I would say yes to almost everything because I felt like I had to grab every opportunity or else I wouldn't survive. Mm-hmm. So what's changed is now I'll say no to something, whereas I feel like I was kind of being too nice to say no. Now I'll just say, you know what? That's not for me. No, thank you. 10 years, 15 years ago, I may have said, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And then I hang up and I'm like, oh God, what did I just do? And now I'm very quick to just say, no, thank you. Or no, but I know somebody who's good at that. And sometimes it's the people I work with. Sometimes I get somebody on the phone and I feel like I won't be able to manage their expectations, or they may be difficult to work with. And so I just say, listen, I just don't think this is the project for me. And you get, like, by experience, you get to feel those things out and you learn and you figure out your sweet spot. And I think I know what mine is, and I go with it, and I don't challenge it in my own mind. I just kind of work and do things that I feel are right and comfortable, and everybody wins, and I'm happy.
Right. There's a less wasting time, a maybe to a commitment. Waste a lot of your time and their time.
Yeah.
Where even in sales, with my first company that we started is a home improvement company, and my guys always explain to the client, we'll take a no as gracefully as we'll take a yes, but a maybe, is not serving either one of us. And so, yeah, great wisdom there. Hey, walk me down the path. So I'd mentioned earlier that one of the things that you do is you coach inventors and consumer product startup companies and stuff. I'm assuming based on all of your background, that's kind of how you transitioned into that. What am I correct?
Yes.
And so how did that come to fruition? And then also teach me or take me down the path of what you teach those people to do to scale their business and get it up and running quickly.
Yeah, well, I kind of fell into helping inventors. And the reason why was because I was successful in my business. And as you mentioned, a very small percentage of people achieve the amount of revenue and profit success that we achieved. And so when you do that, people want to talk to you. They want to ask you, how'd you do it? Mm-hmm. What were your secrets and what were the tricks and all that good stuff? And so when I finally left that business and went into, hey, I think I want to help startups, and I created a website and got my name out there a little bit, I would get emails and people would say, hey, I've got this product idea and I don't know what to do next. And I started getting a lot of that. And I started talking to some people and I said, I should help people do exactly what I did, except help them to avoid the massive expense mistakes and the pain and save them some time. And this kind of evolved over, like a year or two, where I started formalizing, a business platform on helping inventors. And because that's the business I was in. I was in the product business, and inventors invent products. And ultimately, what do they want to do with them? They want to sell them to retailers. That's where you make your money. So I developed over a number of years various platforms, coaching platforms, step-by-step instructional videos, and all types of collateral and coaching pieces to basically take somebody through the process, no matter where they are. So you could say, "Hey, Jim, you know what? I just thought of something. I was outside. I was on my motorcycle, and I thought it would be really cool if I had this widget that I could add to my motorcycle to make it go quicker. Whatever it is. But you have no idea what to do. What's a patent? What's a trademark? How do you get a prototype made? How do you find a factory to make it? All these things. And there's a lot of pieces to that puzzle. So I have formalized the process to help people understand what to do. So this way there's clarity. They say, okay, I know what to do. And then, of course, they say, what's it going to cost? And I try to help them align the cost of taking that idea and then commercializing it down the road. And then when the product's all done, I help them sell it into retail chains. And I do that with a team of people and or myself. So it's one of those things where the business evolved from repeated requests. And then I used to do a lot of speaking engagements. And then after those engagements, people would email me or call me and say, hey, I saw you and I need your help. And so it just developed over time.
So basically, a lot of investors or startups don't have very much money unless they have financial backers, right?
Right.
And so are you typically dealing with bootstraps or VC backed companies or what?
Most of the time it's bootstrappers, it used to be always like that years ago. But over time I've developed deeper inroads with VCs and angel investors and other various entities like athletes and celebrities and their agents. And so, my business used to be 100% bootstrappers. Now it's probably like 60, maybe 70% bootstrappers, and the rest are, very well funded, whether personally or they have, angel or seed dollars that are available to them, whether that's friends and family or it's just a true angel that comes along and says, hey, here's $250,000, good luck. It's a mix, but yeah, it's still. But the majority of my emails, vast majority, come from people who say either they have no money and they want to know how they could make their invention successful, or they've got very limited funds and they want to know how to best use them.
Mm-hmm. And so I find now I speak to a lot of business owners, startups, and existing thriving businesses. There's a lot I have found that there's a lot of people that believe in this myth of build a great product and get some organic traffic and voila, you've got a business. I was fortunate enough to be on the front end of SEO to where I made a fortune off of it with my company because it was brand new. But those days are over.
Yeah, build it and they will not come. I can tell you that. You got to market. Even in almost every business you're in, I don't care if it's a restaurant, I don't care if it's a service business, a product business, the best marketers usually win. And that's just a fact. It's a sad reality that a lot of people will make great products that are useful, that are helpful. They'll never make a penny because they can't get the word out correctly to the right audience through the right channels. If you can't do that or find somebody that can help you do that, your chances go from small already to almost nothing.
Right. So there takes money to do that. And so there's even these videos of these people that people see that have millions of hits. There's normally marketing behind that. And most people don't know that.
Yeah.
And so do you have a platform to where basically you have such a high level of recognition and traffic and connections to where if you really believe in a product that you can help it get into this stream of recognition? Or do you work with them to set up funnels to where the sales funnel basically has to arbitrage?
kind of both. I mean, I work with, a number of talented people. I know a couple of really strong, very successful internet marketers. And depending on what the product is, what the price point is, what sector of retail it's at, I will reach out to those people to work with me to get that product marketed. Again, today a lot of people still believe that the path to success is to sell the major chains, and more, the path of least resistance and least cost is to sell the products on your own, either through your own website or through other people's websites, and also to build affiliate programs and membership clubs and a lot of these, which are still traditional marketing concepts, but they're just quicker to reach people today, because again, you can reach people on their phones and their laptops and stuff like that. But creating funnels for certain products and then letting it build out from there, and building lists is certainly one method. But other times it's a PR effort. It's just, hey, listen, if a celebrity uses your product or sees your product or is seen holding your product, that's a huge boon. If you're on The Doctors or Dr. Oz or the Today Show or one of those Good Morning America, all of a sudden you get your 15 minutes of fame, and then it's how you parlay that into something sustainable. So, I mean, marketing, as you know, comes in many different forms and formats, and I kind of look at each product opportunity and I say, well, what's the best path for this? What costs the least? And you can definitely market on the internet for less money than traditional marketing, like with print ads and things of that nature. So that's an advantage for people today. But like you said, people are still going to spend money. I don't care what business it is. You need money to start a business. You need money to make money. There's no free lunch, free ride. Very rarely have I ever seen anybody with little or no money make money.
Right. So what I've seen, or the way I would look at that, is a PR. Using one of the examples where someone famous is using your product, that can be used as an initial spike to get a lot of attention, but it's not something that will help you sustain growth or a business. I've found that until you can pay to acquire a customer, you really don't have a business. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. And to your point about a celebrity, you're right. You can't there's no one thing that is going to make your business successful. People say, well, if I can only do one thing to market my product, what would you do? And I always say, well, there isn't one thing. It's going to be a culmination of a lot of things. And so whether that's through the internet or it's through a PR effort or grassroots marketing, in order to be sustainable, you've got to take each opportunity, expose it, and then parlay it. So if a celebrity is wearing your clothes, your new clothing line, well, great. Yeah, you'll get a bump in sales. Maybe you'll get a huge boost for a few months. But then what do you do from there? How do you reach out to other celebrities to get more people on board? Do you get yourself on TV shows because now strike while the iron's hot? And do you try to build customer lists and a marketing database from the crush of emails that you get, and then can you sell them something else once you have that customer? So, there's no, people just are looking for that one thing, that one technique, and I don't think that there is. I think you got to mix a whole bunch of different marketing techniques to get sustainable long-term results in any business.
Right. And so, there's several of the topics that we're talking about really go much deeper than we're even talking about. So just so that we're not leaving anybody behind, arbitrage is, if you sell something for $1 as an example, and you start marketing to try and get that new client, then ultimately you need to at least make more than what you spend to sell that product. So, right. If you spend $1 to get that customer and you can net $1.10, then you've reached a point of arbitrage. That's a simplified way of explaining it, right?
Exactly right. And that's the thing. Some people can't understand how to quantify what it costs to acquire a customer. And, there's ways to do that without getting into any detail. But, if let's say you rent a list. Okay, so if you rent a clean list, a list, that where people that buy pet products for their cats, Well, if you get a list of 5 million people that have purchased pet products for their cats in the past 6 months or 9 months, and you spend $10,000 on that list and you get $4,000 in sales, guess what? Not a great use of your dollars, or like you said, you haven't reached arbitrage. But if you go and clean up past your 11, 12 grand, you've hit that point. But if you get $20,000 or $30,000 worth of business from that, hey, you're in good shape. And then you've acquired that customer and have their permission to continue to market to them. And if you have other products or services that you can sell them, hey, that's great, because as the old saying goes, the easiest customer to sell is the one you already have. So
that's right.
Once you have them, you've got to try to make more of those opportunities, because you've got a dedicated customer now, someone you got their ear. What else can you do for them? So people always just try to sell the one thing and they don't think about what else they can do. It's the old, would you like fries with that?
Right.
Kind of thing. So, hey, how about a drink? And how about a dessert? And before you know it, that customer I was going to spend $5 is spending, $15.
Right.
And they love you for it. So it's all good.
Yeah. So now what you're explaining is cross-selling, upselling, things like that, front end, back end. You may get somebody even online today with information products that really cost nothing to deliver, right? There's people out there that have a $1 offer, and they're not going to make really much of anything off the $1 offer, other than they're converting the list from a list of people that are just consuming their free information to a buyer's list. Yeah. And so traditionally there's an upsell. So you may buy the book. I know Perry Marshall's doing something like this right now, and the guy's brilliant. So he's selling his book for $1. And plus you pay his shipping and handling, and then now I hadn't been through his funnel, but at the same time, as soon as you buy that, there's an upsell into a $30 a month continuity program, I believe.
Of course there is, and that's all planned out, and that's what people don't realize. They think that all of that stuff just occurs, but it's planned before that first $1 offer comes out. They know that they've got to get in a swath of people, and here's the top of the funnel, which is very wide. Then it trickles down, and then a certain percentage of those people are going to buy, join a membership club or get into some kind of continuity situation where they're buying something every month, and then from there there's going to be the price points tend to go higher and higher, right? So it's a $1 offer, then there's this $30 club, and then there's a $300 special program or product, at the bottom of the funnel where it's narrow, where the least amount of people are going to buy, but you're capturing higher dollars. So all that stuff is written out, drawn out, whiteboarded, planned out before that first email ever comes down. And smart marketers will do that and use that loss leader, if you will, that first product that doesn't really make them any money, but it gets your attention. It's a great offer. And if you like it, you're very likely to buy something else from that person, either immediately or shortly thereafter.
Right. That reminds me of the story, and I think this is where it came from, and you might be able to confirm this, but I want to say in the 70s or 80s, they were it was a congressman or someone that was wanting to put signs in people's front yards, so vote for Congressman XYZ. And they had a large number of people that just said no, they weren't comfortable with placing this big, large yard sign in their yard. And so they did a test, and the test was they asked 1,000 people, could we put a credit card size sign in your front window that said vote for Congressman XYZ? And a large number of people, something like 20%, said yes, where originally they were only getting 1%. They were saying yes to the yard sign, right? And then they came back to everybody that said yes to the credit card size sign in the window and asked them 2 weeks later, would you mind if we put a sign in the yard? And something like 40 or 50% of them said yes.
Yeah, I know. I heard about this. Yeah, and it's amazing, right? How people can react to things. It's there's a lot of smart people out there with good ideas. It's the same old thing, Travis. There's so many good minds and concepts. It's just knowing how to put it all together. It's just in talking to people that have done it over and over and over again, and more importantly, they know what doesn't work. And that's a key avoidance thing. When you're spending your own money, you're bootstrapping. The last thing you need to do is, hey, I've got 5 or 10 or 50 grand or 20 grand or whatever it is, and you just lose it all in one silly mistake that if you just talk to one person for 20 minutes, you could have avoided it. And I see that a lot. A lot of people come to me after they've burned through everything they have, and I shake my head and go, if you would have just found me sooner, or if you would have just talked to someone, because people get very emotionally attached to their business ideas, and they take it personally, and so they don't hear the noise outside of their own mind. They think that their product or service is the best, everyone's going to buy it, nothing will go wrong, and they kind of, without any information or knowledge, they go at it. And then they go, oh wow, it's not working, I'm not selling anything, or I'm not succeeding. And it's because they just don't know, and that's the thing. They don't want to acknowledge what they don't know. Instead, they think because they like what they're doing that everything's just going to, the universe and the stars are going to align and everything's just going to work for them. And it doesn't. It's a business. It's cutthroat. So people have to understand that.
Well, you know what it is, Jim, is I have found that those people are more focused on being right than being accurate.
Yeah.
And we were talking about Harv Eker, and Harv Eker has a great saying that comes to mind. He says, "You can either be right or you can be rich."
That's it. Hey, look, see Harv Eker. He's been around the block. He knows. He's been around forever.
Yeah. And so you need to remove yourself and what you personally want and step aside and let the people that are pulling out their wallets say what's right or what's wrong. So I want to double back and I want to reinforce what you said, because I've seen it a lot too. So a person is brand new and they've developed something, and they go to an expert like you, and you say, it's going to cost $15,000 for us to test this, for us to, do all of the things that get you to where you need to go. And they shy away because, $15,000, that's just too much. And a year and a half later, they've exhausted 18 months and they've spent probably $18,000 slowly, a couple thousand here, 5,000 on this, and they've still not made any progress. When, it's insane. If you ever get a chance to work with an expert that knows what he or she is doing, jump on it. And, the 18 months, you'll never get it back.
No, plus you're going to spend another X amount of months doing it over. And that's the other thing. You won't get the time back, but now you're going to lose more time, because had you just started with the right information month one, day one, in 6 months you could be where you should be instead of 18 months, and basically it's a do-over.
Right.
It's like watching a movie twice. I mean, why do that? It's just not necessary. It doesn't have to happen. And today, there's so much information available to people. It's almost inexcusable to spend that kind of money. People go out and they'll look for a pair of jeans, or they'll shop for a new computer. So they'll just spend something that only costs a few $100s, and they'll spend weeks researching it and price shopping and comparing, and yet they'll go out and spend tens of thousands on developing a business with zero research and knowledge. I mean, some people spend time researching, but they don't know what they're researching. They just talk to people who know what they're doing and who have done it before, and more often than not, you're going to be in a good spot.
Yeah, what you're talking about is veracity. So what's missing when they're going it alone is the veracity. And most businesses die on the vine. I mean, there's an extremely high failure rate, something like 94% failure rate for businesses over, I think, past the 10-year mark. And a lot of it is due to veracity and a lack of experience, knowledge. And so having that expert like you get them through there, and getting a business up to a startup is kind of like getting an airplane to take flight, right?
Yeah, it's a good analogy, yeah.
And if you're pedaling 20 miles an hour, you're never going to take flight, no matter how big your wings are there. You need to get it up to a certain speed. And so an expert can give you that veracity that cuts through all the things that are getting in the way and gets you up and running and taking flight. So it's super, super important. I'm going to just randomly, I like to do this, just pull a number out of the sky. Can you give me like the top 6 things that someone should do to quickly scale a business? And now I'm not recommending they need to figure it out on their own, but what are the top 5 mistakes or 6 mistakes or the top 6 things that they should do, whichever path you want to go down?
Yeah, well, it could be a combination of both. I think the first thing that somebody should do is not spend a dime until they talk to somebody like an expert or someone who's experienced for all the reasons we just talked about. You don't want to spend money the wrong way and spend your life and time doing things without knowledge, because it's only going to put you in that 94% of failure group. So that's number one. Talk to people who know what they're doing before you jump in the pool. Mm-hmm. Second of all, when you're going to spend money on any business, and in my world, in the invention business or the product business, you have to remove the emotional connection from yourself for the business. In other words, you can't cry or jump up and down, with your idea or your concept. I'm not telling people to not be passionate. You should be passionate about what you're doing. But passion is different than pure emotion in that regard. In other words, you got to emotionally detach yourself from your product.
Right.
If you invent a new product and you think it's awesome and you love it, or it's a baby product or a pet product, who cares? At the end of the day, it's a product. And people are either going to buy it or sell it. It's going to be all about business. And the retailers and everybody else look at it that way. It's not an emotional thing. It's a business thing. It's all about sales and numbers and profit. So you got to emotionally check yourself before you get into your business, or as you get into your business, or you're going to fail very quickly. Another thing that always comes to mind with me when people reach out to me is they do things and then they speak of things and they don't take action. So they'll say, well, this is good, this is great, these are all great ideas, and then they go home and they don't act on anything. Now, I know you don't want to, again, just go jump without thinking, but you have to take action. Inaction is worse because you're just gonna sit there and stew on it and you're not gonna get anywhere. But you have to ultimately take action. You have to take steps and you have to move forward. You have to look back each day or week or month and say, you know what, I went from stage A to stage B or C. If you're still stuck, I talk to a lot of inventors say, I've been working on this idea for 17 years or 10 years. I'm like, what? Like, how could you have nothing in your hand after 10 years? Well, they didn't want to take a chance or a risk, or they were afraid, or, you know what, get informed, learn what you're doing, and then talk to people who can help you, and then either do it or don't do it. If you're not going to do it, don't do it. It's a business, it's not a hobby, and so you gotta take a step. The next other big thing that people have to have, or falls in between your points, is you do have to have time and money to invest in your business. There's no easy way about that. You're not going to get a product to market for free. Even if you license a product, which is basically you own the patent rights to a product and you give that product the rights of that product away to a company that can make the product for you and sell it for you. Still, you got to make prototypes and you got to file for patents, and it's thousands of dollars. So don't start a business unless you either have money or have the capacity to get money, whether it's from family or friends or an investor of some sort. Don't start a business without having money or cash, because you're going to use it, you're going to spend it, and you're not going to make anything the first number of months because you don't have anything to sell. So I think a big mistake is people go into it and don't have the ability to pay for things down the road. And then the other thing is understand what the cost of the business is going to be. So this is point 5, but ties into this point. People think, oh, well, I only thought it was going to cost me $5,000 to open a restaurant. Yeah, come on. So before you get halfway down building the restaurant and then realize you've run out of money, understand your costs and then add like 20% to that, and then decide if you can either come up with that money in the time frame it takes to build that restaurant, or wait until you have that money. Money is a big thing with people, especially bootstrappers. A lot of times they can come up with the money or get it over time, but they just don't know how much they really need. So you got to know your numbers. You got to understand what it's going to take for you to get there.
Yeah, I'm taking notes as we go here.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of other points. I think those are big keys. Just know stuff, get informed, get knowledgeable, take steps, take a little bit of a risk. It doesn't have to be a huge leap. Just dig in there and make things happen, and understand your risks. Know that it's
Right.
you got to not be emotionally attached to everything. It's really important.
Right. So let me double back, okay?
Yep.
Just to make sure that we help drive all of this in. So don't spend a dime until you speak with a pro. So that doesn't even need to be a large sum of money. Sometimes some battles are won by never entering them.
Right.
Right. And so sometimes a pro, and so I want to preface something. I think it's important that you seek advice from a pro that doesn't need your money to pay his rent. Or what's a better way of saying that? His advice is not hinging on future sales.
Right.
You need somebody. I'll give you an example. I see people selling advertising, yet they don't use the same advertising that they're selling to market their own business.
Right.
That's a flag. That's a red flag, right? And so there's experts out there wanting to give expert advice, although they've never built a successful business. Now, bless their heart, they want to help people, but you're doing more of a disservice if you don't know what you're doing when you give the advice. And so what I want to point out is that expert that you're talking about, make sure that they've had success in business and have a deep understanding, and they're going to be fine if you do or don't do this, right? So they're very impartial. Does that make sense?
Right. And, like I said, for example, part of what I've done always is, instead of just always coaching or taking on clients, people can just pay me by the hour just to talk, kind of the way we're talking now. And you know what? For a few $100s, you can find out a lot about what you need to know to potentially get into business, learn about some of the risks, the pitfalls, the pluses. But at least when you hang up, whether it's learning something about what you need to do or it's just affirming what you already thought, that's huge. It's like going to the doctor, right? You have a cold. But you think maybe you don't just have a cold. But you go to the doctor, you pay, $100, $150. They check you out, and the doctor says, you know what, Travis, you have a cold. Go home, hang out, rest, eat some chicken soup. You're good. Don't you feel better when the doctor just said you have a cold?
Yes.
Because it's not knowing that makes you worried or makes you think, and that's a problem itself. So just getting that confirmation on something is worth it. So, hey, spend a few $100s or whatever to get information and talk to somebody who does something every day of their lives and it can give you clarity or can let you. And there are times I've told people, I don't think you should go into this business, or I don't think you should do this, or based on what you've told me. And they're like, what? What do you mean? Look, I'm impartial here. I would love to tell you to go into business because maybe you'll use me and I'll make money. But I don't think, based on what you're telling me, you're fit to go into business right now.
Right.
Oh, all right. Well, you know what? That's as impartial as it gets. I'm being objective. I'm being paid to give you advice. It doesn't matter if I ever talk to you again or I wind up working with you for the next 3 years. This is what I think, and that's where it's at. And
right.
I hang up. And that's that. So.
Right. Yeah, I do a SWOT analysis, and although I'm always kind and considerate when I speak with people, I can say the stuff that nobody else in the company and their family members can't say.
Right. Right, your mother loves you, right? So
yeah.
And that's how it is in the product business. Nobody wants to tell somebody that their product idea is not good or doesn't look nice or it's too expensive. I'm happy to do that for you, right? But
right.
Yeah, you don't want to hurt people's feelings. You want to acknowledge that they've spent a lot of time and given it a lot of thought. But at the end of the day, what's going to hurt more? That I hurt their feelings a little now, or they spend their life savings and really cry later. So sometimes I think we're doing a huge service by letting people know that, based on what you know, that they shouldn't be doing what they're about to do, or they should do it this way or that way.
Right.
Just consider the alternatives.
Exactly. Okay, so number 2, remove the emotion. So I've seen people that are so convinced that their XYZ product is going to change the world, and I love that naivete element at times, but they've drank their own Kool-Aid and they're not completely in touch with reality. And that's what comes to mind for me when you say remove the emotion, is become impartial. Step back and look at something and say, is this thing, am I seeing this clearly? And try to look at it through a lens of a consumer rather than just being so irrationally head over heels with it. Now, it's still hard to completely be disconnected. Sometimes losses are painful and hurt, because you put all the time in it. But that's what comes to mind for me. Is dial that down and focus on being accurate rather than being right. Correct?
Right. I always tell people, look, are you in this to make money? Yes. Well, if you are, here's the reality. If it's just a hobby, then let's play with it. But you're right. You're human. You're not going to be a robot. You're not going to not have emotion. But you got to dial it down from a 10 to a 2 when you're trying to decide, should you spend your hard-earned money on moving forward.
Right. And so take action. I have seen people several times that have been perfecting something for 8 years, and now that's way too long. You've got to get out there. The best information and feedback that you'll ever get is with people, and whether they get their wallets out, and how they react to things, what they do, what they don't. All empirical. Tangible evidence is the best educator, rather than sitting in your garage perfecting this. There's just very little is learned inside there. Now, there's a fine line. I took something almost 18 months before I started marketing my show because I wanted to get it to a level that I felt like was pretty dang good. I'll never be perfect, and I don't always say precisely what I want to say, but that's also authentically who I am at the same time. And really, even 18 months was probably too long. So there's kind of a fine balance there. There's as with most things, there's contradictions on different levels. Have you found that, and do you agree?
Yeah, I do. And look, I think most people that have been working on something for 18 months or 18 years, they know they're in it too long. They know they have to make decisions. I think it's either they just don't want to take the risk and they don't want to spend money. And a lot of people in my world are just hoping that somebody, the product gods are going to swoop down and scoop them up and pay them millions for their idea. And there's a lot of that, delusional type stuff that does happen, unfortunately. And it's not easy. It's easy for us to say now, but look, you and I both have gone through this, and I just think you have to, like you said, whether it's a SWOT analysis, strengths and weaknesses, or sometimes you just have to say, what am I willing to risk? And if you're not, it's okay. Not everybody's built to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody has to create a business or start a business. It's okay to work for companies and live that life. It's millions of people do.
Right.
But if you're going to go at it, you've got to set a time limit and say, okay, I need 6 months, and I'm going to talk to experts, and I'm going to, do some research, and I'm going to feel things out, and I'm going to test a few things. But you have to take a step on a regular basis. Like I said, you can't look back and say 3 months and say, wow, I was going to call Travis 3 months ago. Step one, I haven't even done that. That's a problem. If you can't get past there, you've got some things to work through. But you've got to be making forward steps, even if they're small steps, to decide if you're going to really get into something. And yeah, you could be a perfectionist to some degree, and you should do your homework, and you should. But at some point, it's if you're
time to pull the trigger.
Yeah, you gotta. Otherwise, you're wasting your life away. And in my business with products change so often. If you're sitting on an idea for 3-4 years, chances are by the time it comes to fruition, somebody's already done it already, or it's outdated. Right. So you've got to be timely in your in your thinking.
Yeah, completely agreed. Now, number 4 is pretty self-explanatory. It's need, time, and money. There's a lot of people that start businesses and don't have the time and don't have the money.
And then, so what? You know what? You just can't do it. Bottom line.
Yeah. So save yourself the headache and the money if you don't have the time and money. And then number 5, know your numbers. There's an incredible number of people out there, Jim, that don't know what COGS are. Cost of goods sold. And so they don't know what fixed overhead expenses are. They don't know what selling cost is. You got to know those things.
Yeah, and they're easy to learn. I mean, it's easy for people like you and I to explain those things to people. Here are the things you have to watch out for. Here are your major expenses. There's always going to be little things that crop up, but it's an old probably 90-10 rule. I mean, 90% of your costs are going to be 10% of these items, which are major things. Like I said, it's overhead, it's rent, it's cost of goods sold, it's land and property, it's whatever it is. And in my world, it's easy for me to explain, look, these are the top costs you're going to incur, and based on what you've told me, this is about what it's going to wind up costing you. Done. Right. Then you know what? If something else comes along, well, I don't count making business cards as part of my plan. You can get business cards made for $20. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the things that cost either hundreds or more importantly thousands that you can't go, oops, I forgot that a factory's got to make your order and it's going to cost you $20,000 to make it. Right. That's at the top of my list, right? But little things, if you need to go buy pens, I'm not. That's not on my checklist of you got to be worried about stuff like that.
Yeah, good point. Listen, I've run you a little bit long. Let's. What do you say we segue into the lightning round? I've got those 3 questions that I sent you. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, man, I'm ready.
Cool. All right. So, what book or program made an impact on you related to business that you'd recommend, and why?
It's funny. People are surprised with this. I'm not a big book reader. I feel like when I want my information, I get it in periodicals, or I'll read a magazine, or I'll watch something on TV. But, like anybody, I've read various business books. And I think this book that a lot of people know, it's by William Stanley, The Millionaire Next Door. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great book, not only for entrepreneurs, but just for people in general, because without getting into any detail, the book explains how the average millionaire lives, and how the average millionaire lives is not like celebrities and athletes we see on TV. They're people that drive Toyotas, and they have, modest homes, and they go on basic vacations, and they splurge on certain things that mean something to them. But by learning how people think and understanding that a lot of millionaires don't, live in excess, that's why they're millionaires. They clip coupons, they double check things, and they're very proactive. Again, it sounds a little self-serving, but they'll spend $500 to talk to an expert instead of just throwing $5,000 at something and not know what they're doing. They're very methodical and thoughtful, and they take their time, but they make their moves, and they make ultimately those are the people that make a lot of money. So The Millionaire Next Door is I think a good general read for anybody that looks at or wants to understand business or finance.
Yeah, I agree. Well said. What's one of your favorite tools or pieces of technology that you've recently discovered, if any, that you'd recommend to other business owners, and why?
I love this question because it's, I was thinking like, what things are great, and what one thing could have changed how I work. But what I really find a lot that really helps me are apps. I got an iPhone. And I use apps like TurboScan to scan documents and send them to people. Or there's an app called Sign Now where, hey, somebody sends me an agreement or a contract. I don't have to go sit on my computer and do all these things. I could just simply, from my phone, read something, sign it, and send it back. I think, anything that all these business apps that make my time more useful, and there's thousands of them. I think that's the best. I mean, that's not one technology piece, but I think that whole area of using apps on your iPad or iPhone to make my day simpler, and I could do things, from a beach, as you will, is the best, the cheapest pieces of technology. I mean, some of these apps are free. Some of them are like just $2, $3, $5, and yet they save me collective hours of time a week or a month. I mean, talk about spending money wisely, right?
Right. Yeah. You don't have to go plug in the fax anymore, right?
Yeah. Or I could print right from I could be here on the phone with you. While I'm talking to you, I could sign a document and send it to somebody. Obviously, I wouldn't be paying attention to you, but I could do this, right? I could multitask. I could print something on my printer from my phone, and I could scan a document and send it to somebody. All while I could do 10 things at once if I wanted to, and I could just do it from a chair. I mean, that's the best technology pieces that I think that people should do is look at these apps and just little productivity apps that helps them get through their day quicker.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Hey, what famous quote would best summarize your belief or your attitude in business? It really doesn't even have to be famous.
Well, I'm a big fan of Benjamin Franklin, and not because he was an inventor, but because this guy was like the ultra businessman. This guy ran how many different businesses? He was head of state, that kind of thing. Really smart guy, and he has this one quote that I really plays into what you and I do in this world, which is, an investment in knowledge pays the best interest, right? We've been talking about that this whole hour here. Invest in learning a little bit, and down the road, it's going to really help you a lot. It truly does pay the best interest down the road. So I always like that one from Ben Franklin.
Yeah, excellent. I haven't heard that one. I definitely like it. How do people connect with you?
Well, people can go to my website, which is my name, jimdebetta.com, JIMDEBETTA.com. And there's click on, contact Jim, and they can reach me there. That's really the best way. Or my email, which is jim@jimdebetta.com. Either way, that's how people tend to connect with me. And, I respond to everybody ultimately, and I don't ignore anybody or anything. I try to be very respectful that people spend the time to reach out, and I want to reach back out.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for that. Remember, guys, that you can find all the links to the books and the resources mentioned in the show notes. Just go to rockstarentrepreneur.network.com. It's a fairly new site that we've been building out that's focused on giving you the resources to help grow your business. Before I close the show today, I want to remind you that building a profitable business is a series of formulas. And as you apply those formulas to your business, your profits become very predictable and start building a long-term wealth. This is what moves you into a position to help others, which I believe is part of our responsibilities as an entrepreneur. Now, if you haven't reached that level of consistency yet with your business, we've put a free program together called the Business Breakthrough Sweepstakes, and where we focused on teaching some of the formulas in a simple step-by-step format. It's shares some of my personal story along the way, things that we don't really have time to share during the show, and also, to add a little fun and excitement to the whole thing, if you join the sweepstakes and stay engaged, you'll have a chance to win $73,000 in cash and prizes, where I'll personally mentor you and your business. Plus, you'll have a chance to win my personal Lamborghini. So for more information, just go to rockstarentrepreneur.network.com and click on the sweepstakes promotion. Now, my quote for today comes from Napoleon Hill, and it reads, "Cherish your visions and your dreams as they are the children of your soul and the blueprints of your ultimate achievements." This is Travis Lane Jenkins signing off for now. To your incredible success, my friend. Take care.